And the findings seem to suggest that expected returns have fallen quite a bit. Now everybody seems to expect 3 to 6%. Hi guys, welcome into today's show. We have Gerald in today also.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all.
Jared's been on this show before, and Jared actually put up something very interesting, which is the OCBC Wellness Index, right? What caught your attention, or how do you get to know about this report?
How I got to know this report was that, when you open Chrome, there's like suggested reads, right? So this was suggested by Google. Apparently, Google's is stalking what I like. So then I read the report, and some of the numbers were quite controversial. So that's why I thought, I sent it to Josh, and I sent it to you, right? Then together we thought that it was interesting enough that we decided to do a discussion on it today.
Let me scope today's show a bit. Topic 1, we'll be talking about emergency cash. I know it's a concept that we've heard a bit of times, but I think there are some findings to reinforce certain good practices. So let's go with that. The second part that we'll be discussing on is actually unrealistic retirement number that was surveyed out. I think that is something that I will be picking on quite a bit. So do stay tuned to it. And last but not least, we will end off today's whole discussion with investments. I think we have found replies from many of those that were polled on where they're investing. So maybe that gives you a sensing of what's happening on the ground. So without further ado, let's start on the first topic on emergency cash. This is quite a shocker. Only 53% have 6 months of salary to overcome a crisis. Gerald, what are your thoughts on this point?
When this number came out, right, it was there is a little bit of irony there because the research showed that 91% of Singaporeans actually do save more than 10% of our income. So if the average Singaporean saves like 500 a month, right? Let's say our average income is 4K. So family saves 500 a month, but more than half still don't have 6 months worth of savings as backup. So then this makes me wonder, right? Hey, are they answering the question properly? If not, where's the savings, or where are all the savings going?
Maybe I can answer December. So go went holiday already.
I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Well, one trip will cost you,
Your holiday expenses should not be part of emergency cash. Emergency, we cannot dig it out for holiday. I think that overrides the whole principle. Holiday is voluntary. It is not a crisis. They need to pull out that sum of money. Hey, so quick question. Where do you park your own emergency cash right now?
Right now, I think because I spend a lot of time in my business, right? So a lot of it is just set in like a corporate account, which is not really good money. As working capital. Then the rest of it.
So corporate account, do they also have high interest accounts like OCBC 360? Then don't have
0% interest, and they have high minimum balance, right? If you don't have at least $10,000 a month, they charge you what, $35 a month.
Wow. Maybe your situation is a bit special lah. For right now, I think UOB is the latest to offer increased rates. Top line is like 7.8%, something like that. For myself, I'm with OCBC, so some of my emergency cash is there. Some is in SSB, some is in Trust Bank. So scattered all over the place. But if corporate accounts don't give that much, maybe you can consider one of these options, right?
Yeah, I need to save up more cash first. So that's my situation now.
But what were your thoughts? How much in terms of emergency cash should you save, or should one save? Like friends around your age.
Yeah, so I think this depends on the situation, right? Like for my case, because I'm starting a business, and not only that, the nature of my business is cyclical. So okay, I run a badminton academy. So the good thing about the academy is that students pay upfront. So then I have a huge buffer of unearned revenue. So those are cash that's sitting in my bank account, right? So technically I can rely on those as leverage, but that's very dangerous lah. So that's one factor. Another factor is that the nature of my business is quite cyclical, because during holidays, during exam periods, students will not train badminton at all. So then basically we only have business like 10 months in a year. So that's why we do.
I thought December they do more camps. Like parents are willing to spend more. Let's do a 7-day intensive training kind of thing. Not
Correct. Yes. So normally they do, but right now, because this is the first end of year from COVID lockdown, right? So then unusually high number of people are traveling.
Brings back to the point. Everybody burned their emergency cash on a big trip to Japan. I know at least two in Japan right now for my Facebook.
Because the exchange rate is just juicy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to Japan's Disneyland, wow, super cheap, like 20% off usual ticket price. Then in terms of emergency cash, what do you think for someone in your age with maybe a corporate government job, what would
Mm.
you think is suitable? Then we can debate a bit better on that.
For me, actually, I would buffer quite a little bit more because right now, right, I'm at the age where my parents are starting to get a little bit older. So
Hmm.
I feel that even though I don't have kids, I realize that I really do need to buffer quite a bit more because I'm the oldest child, right? It's because I need to buffer more for my siblings just in case anything happens to my mom, right? Then well, not only do I need to take care of me and my wife, I also need to consider my siblings as well. So 6 months is a little bit tight. I would rather be a little bit safer and budget almost to, more than that, right? Maybe 8 months, 9 months worth of savings set aside just in case. Not to mention the fact that interest rates are relatively good now, so it doesn't really hurt too much if
Hmm.
opportunity cost is not so high lah, if I were to save more.
Hey, could it be previously COVID impacted sports business quite a bit? Was there an impact period?
Yes, very big impact.
What was the story
So,
like?
yeah, so back then during COVID, right? Basically they use all the sports halls as vaccination centers for the dormitory workers. So and CCs were all closed. Like we can't go out. It was shut down, right? So business actually came to a grinding halt. So everyone in the company was unpaid leave. Basically, it was business to zero.
Hmm.
So then it's really the worst case scenario you would imagine. No income for 6 months. Then after that, oh, they trick you, right? Hey, we open up for 1 month. Then after that, when you start to invest, it takes some time to invest in all your infrastructure, booking of courts, you get your stuff back. Then next month shut down again, you know? So then yeah, that was very, very tough times.
So that was a period where emergency cash concept was reinforced.
Yes, it was really, 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 really important. I cannot imagine those that geared up. They would have. That's it, man. Literally go bankrupt.
Then is it fair to say that in for someone who's not in government service or running a business or maybe in sports, entertainment, these are sectors which can see a big evaporation in terms of income. Is it fair to assume that way or not?
In fact, most businesses, unless you even yeah,
Because
unless
essential
you're the
service
CEO of the
business
business.
still okay, what, right? Like healthcare.
Yeah, essential services would be protected, right? FMCG would technically be a little bit safer as well.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, so then my case sports, well, I really need to make sure you have cash set aside. So back then I actually bought quite a bit of SSB lah. So then all
Hmm.
redeemed already at that
Wow.
point of time.
Oh, maybe I started off, travel agents also. If someone is in the travel agency business, doing tourism, in
Yeah,
hotels, pandemics come, like, it's not like never will happen again.
yeah.
It's proven that every 10 years kind of thing, there's something big that
Yes.
happens, that impacts tourism. Even, suddenly remember a friend. He's in magic business. He performs. And performance, you need live audience.
Mm,
Doing it on screen, you can play cheat, lah, of course. But doing live is where the big money is and where the wow factor really kicks in. If I'm not wrong, he
mm.
also kind of had to take on other freelance jobs because performance-wise, it was totally non-existent already for COVID period.
Yeah.
So I hope he has enough emergency cash at that point of time.
Yeah, that reminds me of my friends who works as artist. So he sells his painting, right?
Mm.
So then all the galleries are practically gone during the COVID period.
So maybe
Yeah.
we can categorize, like, if you have dependents, then you definitely need to stretch the emergency portion you have. If you're, for example, single, just started working, no dependents, then maybe that emergency cash can be shrunk a bit smaller. It's possible. Which also brings upon the moral story is there's no one size fits all. When we say 6 to 12 months, you really need to depend based on your age, your industry you work in, your life stage, whether you have dependents, mortgage, and stuff. Now you have mortgage already, so all the more you need to bump that up.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you, what do you think about investment income, right? Because you see, income is usually two portion. One portion would be like your working income, which is what we are discussing about since the start of this topic. But there's also a huge portion which is investment income. So yeah, like investment income, like rental income or dividends from your stocks and shares. If you have those, would you minus those off from your expenses, assuming like you lose your job? Hey, but
Oh,
maybe rental income brings you like $3,000 a month. Then
because
do you
it's
really? So
because if we
much.
focus is on expenses, right? Then expenses we can shrink it. It's true.
Mm,
But the income portion, how to say, emergency cash is focused on expenses. It's not too much on the income side. It helps you diversify your risk if you also
mm,
have investment income coming in addition to active income. It reduces that problem. But I think the safer factor to look at is how many times of how many months of expenses. Just focus on expenses. Then if the problem arises, then cut back on expenses quickly. Really have to drop certain things
yeah,
quickly. Like
yeah,
sell off the car, lah, for example. Or if crisis
that's
hit
true.
again and your expenses are so big, then you might have to take a loss on the car. I think that's more realistic. But
Yeah,
yes, if you diversify your income stream, it helps you to make sure that money can come in some form.
yeah, yeah. Because I think a lot of us, we never expect, right, doomsday scenario, because
Mm,
sometimes it's not just the loss of income, but a huge increase in expenses too.
mm.
Yeah, so those are like shockers that, wow, you never really predict, right? Like for example, not only for me as a business owner, not only do I not have income, now I still need to pay my staff during zero income period, right? Well,
Uh,
that's a very stressful unimaginable period that I didn't expect.
I think the income part really impacts retirement. Then
Yeah.
if we are fully retired, then we really want more sources of income. Or semi-retired, then you also need more sources of income. Especially for the older age kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So when the time comes, I will start planning. Okay, so now let's move on to the next big topic and wellness index, right? Which is, are Singaporeans retirement expectations too unrealistic, right? Because
Mm.
right now, based on the wellness index, OCBC gave the participants three different types of scenario. A, do you want to retire in a basic lifestyle? So then they call it like 2.5K a month. So then maybe you can travel like once a year, no
Mm.
maid. Then B, you have a maid part-time cleaner, you own a HDB, maybe you can afford like taxi once in a while. So that's like 3.2K a month. We get to travel twice a year. Then there's a more luxurious kind of lifestyle where you get to travel internationally, maybe to Europe, to the US. You have a full-time maid, you have a nice car. So that's they priced it at 5.7K a month in income to retire. Based on what the research showed, right, was that actually, right, a lot of Singaporeans aspire towards like a really wealthy in fact, it was 34% of youths in their 20s. Wow, they want to retire with at least 5.7K. And the number just keeps dropping as people get older. So
Uh.
it could be like a suggestion. So then I thought to myself, were these people in the 30s and 40s, when they were younger, were they also aspiring, like lifestyle C, like a very luxurious income? So then over the years, as life kicks them in the face, and I realized, wow, maybe I should drop my expectation as they move up in life. Or were they actually already like that? But nowadays, the youths are even more ambitious because of maybe like social media, right? So then,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
yeah. So then I was thinking, like, hey, that's a very interesting thing to talk about. So, what are your thoughts on this
I
matter?
think we should ban financial independence topic anymore on YouTube. No more preaching the wrong subject to give
Yeah,
unrealistic expectations. But what you mentioned is definitely correct. Like, that is like when we are young, we think we are indestructible, nothing can go wrong to us. And then once you get some knocks here and there, retrenchments, if you talk to fellow Singaporeans who are in their 40s, they definitely have
mm,
seen before, either to themselves or to their own immediate colleagues in one form or
yeah,
another. So retrenchment thoughts start to come in.
yeah.
But aspirations when you're young are definitely too ambitious. That's my gut feeling. You're younger, like, you should be the one that's more ambitious. What are some of the numbers in terms of what they are thinking of? Because 5,007 is inflation adjusted, right? And when do they want
Yeah.
to retire?
The research papers show that generally the younger audience expect to retire early, or FIRE, right? Financial independence, retire early. So those that are in their 20s expect to retire at 57 years old. Then those in the 50s expect to retire 65. Those in their 40s expect to retire at 61
Uh,
years old on average. Yeah, the older you get, the later you expect to retire, right? Um,
so interesting.
and
So
and
what do they imagine their life to be if they want to retire at 57? Do
yes,
they
so
really think like, they can go traveling around the world all the time, no obligations kind of a situation?
yeah, in fact, most of them do, most of them, I don't want to work crazy long hours. I want work-life benefit. But at the same time, I want to be able to retire in their 50s, some even 40s, right? With $5,000, $6,000 a month, a nice car, got a maid. Wow, very ambitious.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah.
see over there. Oh, they aspire to own high-end cars. If we were to look and scrutinize on this list, right, I think that is the number one thing that looks totally unnecessary, lah. It's like you can aspire to live in a nicer house. That's fine. You can
Yeah.
aspire to travel more. I think that's fine. That's experience, right? Correct. But if you
Yeah.
want to own high-end car, then maybe there's a hint of materialism, or too wild expectation. Because in any case, if you want to retire early, you need to balance, which means you need to be super frugal to build up that cash, to build up that investment pot. It works hand in hand. You cannot, I want extravagant, then you start practicing the extravagant lifestyle now, then you have no savings. That's why only 10%. 10% cannot get 10% savings of your earnings, right? Cannot get you to fire that easily. I think 57, 58 to retire, if 10% only, you're not going to get there. That's my gut feeling on things.
Yeah,
Maybe,
so I think
yeah.
sorry. So youths do realize that this is not happening for them. They probably have a sensing, right? Hey, these numbers don't work out. So a lot of them gamble into cryptos where
Ah,
high risk, high return. So therefore I can quote unquote retire early. And you can see what happened lah. A lot of them. Yeah.
I think, yeah, the solution that solves this appears to be high return ideas,
Yes.
which tend to disappoint. Not that all are scams and not that all cannot turn out well. It's just that there's a tendency that such a route would actually derail the progress. You rather go slow and steady, it's predictable.
Yeah.
Then you punt and hope that you make it through an unexpected windfall. So some people get there with Toto, but let that be the minority. That's not easy to repeat for everybody. That's not a formula.
Yeah. And another thing to note is also what are you good at, right? A lot of youngsters, even though they take high risk, they take high risk in areas that they are not proficient or knowledgeable in. That's, I think, itself one of the biggest risks there is.
I think maybe I can help to quantify numbers a bit. So if we go with a slow and steady kind of approach, maybe if you guys listening in your, for example, at age of 30, and you want to retire at 58, for example, that's 28 years of runway. So assuming that you want this 5,007, which means yearly 60,000 thereabouts in terms of expenses, and 25 times of expenses, so that's the fire number. 25 times of expenses equals to, once you have that pot, you can retire early. That number works out to be 1.5 million. Wow. So if you have only 28 years to build 1.5 million, you got to start work today. You don't get there overnight. And the simple math, if you're getting 5-6% compounded return, you need to put in capital of 40, 50,000 for that to work. Make sure you can earn that, make sure you can save that and invest proficiently first. If not, all this is just a pipe dream, not in the right direction. And then very soon you will adjust your expectations abruptly also. That's not the best idea. So back on retirement lifestyle A, something that's more frugal, that seems to be about half the amounts. Which reinforces a key point. Everybody, if you want to retire at 58 thereabouts, I think the easy math is you might need to invest 2,000 easily per month. Then you can get that capital to do retirement at 57, 58. If not, very likely you might need to tone down the expectation or work a bit longer than what you originally forecast.
Yeah, so HDB's investment in HDB doesn't count,
Because again, you buy HDB, it appreciates, then you want a bigger house. So house is a liability, right? Correct.
Agree with you on that.
So speaking about that, right, it's like house is something that can be invested, but this survey focused a lot on where Singaporeans are looking to invest. And that leads to topic 3, where are Singaporeans investing? Can we find out some insights or where the herd is moving? There's a lot of wisdom, like, or if the herd is going there, then maybe that's not a safe place after all. What is mentioned over here is that everybody is surveyed, all age groups, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, everybody voted Singapore shares to be where they'll be investing more. That to me seems weird. You have friends in 20s and 30s, are they into Singapore stocks?
if you ask my friend, okay, so in terms of understanding investment, yeah, they know that they need to invest. I'm talking about my friends who, fresh grad work 1-2 years, right? They know
Uh,
they need to invest, but they usually don't understand what they're investing in. Lah. A lot of them is Tesla. Lah. How much does Tesla, make? They
uh.
don't know. What's Tesla P? They also don't know. So buy Tesla,
But then it's under international shares, right? Correct. There's a
Yeah,
segment for
yeah,
it.
yeah. So I definitely don't hear like, oh, local banks. No, man. In fact, it's the older generation they would
Uh.
buy like local banks. Those are like my mom's generation. They're Chinese, they always local banks or blue chip stocks. My friends never talk about local shares, man. Is it a
Maybe I can
crypto
share a bit on that.
or yeah,
It's like,
famous brand? Mm.
yeah, it's like, the older generation, in that space, they used to be burned by club shares, which is Malaysian shares. I don't know if you heard
Ah,
that saga before. It's like 30 years ago kind of thing. So a lot of
mm,
them invested overseas shares, and they got
mm.
burned because, long story short, that exchange had problems. Malaysia exchange, actually. So a lot of
Oh,
it
okay.
turned worthless. Therefore, they feel
Wow.
that safety in
Yeah.
Singapore shares. That's
Mm.
it's a bit like crypto lah. Overnight disappear.
Ah, right, right, right.
And the number for crypto, if you were to look, 17% of surveyed in the 20s are looking to add more into crypto. That number drops a bit for older people, like 40s, less than 10% really. 40s almost less than 10%. What is your sensing on the ground for crypto investing at this time and
Yeah.
moment?
So this paper, right, even though they say 17% want to invest more, bear in mind this was done before the FTX debacle.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it does make sense for those in their 20s and 30s. Because a lot of my friends, they have full commitment and faith in
Hmm.
Ethereum or Bitcoin that it will fly to the moon, even though they don't understand the technology behind it. Yeah, you ask them what is a merge, they know nothing about it. Yeah, so at the same time, they think crypto is the way to make a lot of money because I think among us friends, every one of us have heard some sort of story where one friend or another friend make a lot of money, like life changing, $1.5 million from investing in Bitcoin when it was $40. Irrationally optimistic about cryptocurrencies, lah.
But the
Because
bear
you don't
market has
understand,
been for a while already, one over a year already, right? Correct.
but they don't
Surely
check the
it sucked
numbers,
out a
lah.
lot of optimism already.
Yeah, but they don't really check the numbers.
Oh,
What's my Bitcoin? Oh, I don't know. Then check.
maybe that's the better way to hoarder. Hey, but so for your own Ethereum, because you used to mine Ethereum, right? Like,
Correct. I used to mine
uh,
Ethereum
you
quite a
putting it
fair bit.
into cold wallets. What's your rough game plan right now for coins that you own?
Right. So I don't know whether I consider myself a slightly more woke person. So I actually stopped putting money from cryptos. In fact, I've been cashing out, and I did say on my channel that I've been cashing out cryptos regularly because despite the fact that I am, you know, involved in cryptocurrencies, actually my strategy was quite off cryptocurrency. You see, when you mine, right, you buy your regular consumer hardware. It's like the
Mm.
McDonald business concept. You buy the land, but they
Uh,
have fast food business on top. Yeah, so I wasn't that personally like, my investments are not really tied inside cryptocurrencies. It was mostly tied into hardware, but I mine cryptocurrency, which I
uh.
sell. Yeah, so then
So
I've
you
been
mine
cashing
already
out.
yourself. You mine already yourself. Is that
Yes, correct, correct, correct. Yeah, so that was my strategy. Sell, 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 sell. Then yeah, I have not been putting in more money into cryptocurrencies. And right now, all those that I mine, I just keep lah because like I think towards when the merge happened, then profits just went down the drains. I've
mm,
been keeping all those currencies that I've been mining since then.
mm.
Just a couple of $1,000 just set aside in exchanges and cold wallet. Yeah. So then I never really do anything
Hey,
with it. I don't
exchanges.
even
So you don't want to pull them out of exchanges because so many of
no,
them
not
have
really.
contagion
Yeah.
risk. What I mean, since we're on that subject.
I think for this risk, right, even cold wallet also has its own risk. Lah. A lot of people think that cold wallet is the safest, but I am not of the opinion that cold wallet is the safest because cold wallet, right, it is probably safest from hackers, but it is the most risky of your own mismanagement.
Mm, mm,
Because cold wallet, the only way that stops you from the only barrier between you and your cash is that seed phrase, right?
mm.
So then if you put it on paper, 2 years later, hey, can you find a paper? Is that paper faded? If it fades, right, and your hardware fails, which it will fail at some point in time,
Uh,
your money's gone.
uh.
Yeah, so So that's the huge risk that I think it's not sufficiently appreciated by the community. That cold wallet also has its risk. And most people, even they put in cold wallet, they actually invested in DeFi.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
the put in cold wallet and duplicate that seed phrase, put one in the safe kind of format.
Oh,
Because
okay,
I
okay.
understand there's a problem with losing that seed phrase.
Yeah, yeah. So seed phrase, losing a seed phrase is a very real challenge, right? And me and my wife, we are not the neatest of
Hmm.
people. So I know that the risk for me is not negligible. So that's why I know I shouldn't put all my money into cold wallet, for the reason alone.
For anyone who's a bit confused, seed phrase is how you can prove, correct, that asset belongs to you. Where you can reconnect the blockchain with that seed phrase from the hardware or something like that. You key that
Yeah, it's
in,
like a
then
backup
you
key.
can authenticate. Yeah, correct. It's a backup key lah. That's exactly. So for myself, yeah, the seed phrase I duplicate, put one in the safe.
Oh
It's
yeah,
very
it's a
primitive
good
in
idea.
terms of solution wise.
Yeah, yeah. It's ironic, right?
I think crypto space, it's it's going to see regulation, and that's the sensing of things. There's so much, loss already. Now things have burned down to such a state, and maybe if it's more regulated, protect retail investors from losing life savings. I think that's the
Yeah.
ultimate goal. And speaking of life savings, a lot of people now are parking to safe assets, which is one finding from this OCBC survey also. More and more are shifting towards lower risk holdings like fixed income. So those would pay a meager amount. And the findings seem to suggest that expected returns have fallen quite a bit. Not everybody seems to expect 3 to 6%, which can be achieved really through
Yeah.
deposits. Maybe we should rethink if you are younger also. If you put too much into safe assets, fixed deposits, yes, right now it appears to be high on a nominal value. But also do note it's always below inflation. You are not progressing in your financial freedom journey if you put into safe assets. Right now, market is bearish. That's quite obvious. But when seasons like this happen, that is where you see some, or rather, unexpected bigger gains, because that's where things start to recover. That's where double-digit returns are actually very easy to achieve. So it's something I've seen before in my journey, and something I thought to remind everybody. Don't just look at safe assets. Start to plan for 2023 how to invest gradually in the markets. And if we see a recovery somewhere down the road, that's where you see big gains for yourself and work towards a financial freedom journey.
Yeah. So basically you are reminding people to be more contrarian. When times
Yes,
are tough, don't get scared and just put everything to fixed deposits. Do bear in mind stocks historically have been returning better than usual averages, right? And now is a good time to buy stocks for cheap.
we see the number in terms of percentage for fixed income and bonds increase. Structured investment products also increase, correct?
Correct. So one thing to note is that what I noticed is that there's probably quite a lot of active investing going on, because you see the number of percentage of people that bought local stocks dropped by 6%, right?
Hmm.
Then it moved to structured investment products or fixed income. So then that means people are actively selling to buy into lower return assets at this point when the market is relatively pessimistic right now.
Hmm.
So then for them to be contrarian, right, is really 360 opposite. So then I think one method that might make it simpler to keep it consistent is just to RSP every month,
Hmm.
just the same. So then when stocks are cheap, you buy more of it, right? So right now, I think a lot of people are actively investing. So that's why that when market is bad, let's sell in anticipation of
Let's
worse
actually
outlook.
cut loss and go to a safe asset. You crystallize that loss just to
Yes.
earn that three,
Loss.
4%. And like
Yes.
fixed deposits, if you see, I can earn 3, 4%. But that's also 1 year. You must know you must survive 1 year. If you look at it per day, you earn 0.02%. And then you wake up already. Like, wow, that is simply not acceptable. Kind of thing. So don't look for the safe route, because that actually is not the way to build wealth. Times are bad, that's where you invest. Okay, contrarian, that's what I was thinking about. To sum up today's whole discussion, because we really want everybody to reach financial freedom. Not that you should speculate, but when times are bad, remind yourself that there are good points, there are bad points. Invest in bad periods, and that's where you actually build long-term wealth. That's how Rex richer stories always come about. Right?
Yeah. So have a structured plan and stick to it.
So
Don't get
as
scared by
always,
it.
thank you, Gerald, for stepping in for today's discussion. It's a good
The pleasure.
piece to remind everybody on also. And If we have other findings, we'll share with you on this channel. So do smash the subscribe. Stay tuned for more good content. As always, if you have questions, leave your comments below. We'll see you guys in the next week's video. Take care as always. Goodbye.